Alright, hello everybody and welcome back to another video. This video is going to be about Microsoft Excel Online. Microsoft Excel Online is basically the free online version of Microsoft Excel. Key difference is that it comes with a lot less bells and whistles. So it's also a good alternative if you just don't have Microsoft Excel or you don't really mind not having some of the functionalities. So it can be a good option for you in those cases. So first off, we'll talk about tabs. So tabs are right at the top of the screen here. You can see that if you've used any other Microsoft software, then the tabs will be very similar. So for example, we have clicked Home, Insert, Draw, Page Layout, Formulas, Data, Review, View, and Help. So if I click on Home, well, you see this long sort of list of features. It's called a ribbon, and a ribbon is divided into groups. So basically, there's this little gray line here. If we go all the way down, we see another little gray line here. Basically, this is what we call a group, and it's basically text formatting in this particular group. And of course, there are various other groups and other tabs that you need to be known about. So, next section is something important. It's called a cell. Now, a cell is basically just one of these little boxes. Each cell has a name, which comprises of the column it's under and the row that it's under. So, for example, this right here, column A is highlighted. If I click A, highlights the whole column, and this cell is in white. Similar thing that happens if we click on one, all the columns, or I'm sorry, all the rows in row, all the cells in row 1 are highlighted, and the one we've selected is under A1. Now you can navigate between cells by just using the arrow keys. Go down, up, left, right. You can also move down a column by pressing Enter, and move down a row by pressing Tab. Now, if cells, these are basically just places where you can store information. So you can just type something out like Hi World. You can print out numbers. You can do operations. Although if you do something like this, then it will. We should know that wasn't an operation, but so functions are basically something we'll get to in another episode. Basically, you can type in a whole bunch of stuff. You can go down the row. Okay, and this out shows us something very simple, as it just barely kind of overflows into the next column here. So, for example, well, actually not really. I'll type this again. Type this again to make it more clear. So basically, it looks like it bleeds over into these two new columns or two subsequent columns. Now, if we just click Enter, it will remain this sort of size. But again, it will bleed into the column. So what we can do is that we can double click this little area right between the two columns, and once you see the symbol that's currently shown there, then it will basically wrap the text or wrap the cell around the text. So you can also adjust the width like so. And then of course, that's one way you can wrap the text. So you can also do the same thing with the height for a particular cell. And then we could just type something similar. So wrap around text. Oops. Then if we start typing again, we'll just sort of bring it to the bottom here. And then another thing you can do is you can just right click here. You click Insert Row, and it will actually show up the same sort of sized row. So let's see if I click on row 5. If I click on Insert Rows, then it will make the new row kind of be the same thing. Let's see what happens if we type it out. So we're going to be looking at what happens if you insert a row while you have a row selected. So basically, yeah, it will insert a row above your test type. So you can see, for example, this is at row 7. It used to be at row 6, and so this similar row here kind of got added. You can do the same thing with columns. So for example, you insert columns, and because it selected A1 here, it added a whole new blank A column. So basically, yeah, that's how you do columns and rows. You can just add them, subtract them. You can do basically the same thing again. You can delete these columns. You can delete. You can select multiple rows and columns by clicking Control and then clicking. So let's see what happens when we delete these columns. And we get them basically deleted. The whole whole row gets the whole column gets sort of smaller because those particular bits aren't in there anymore. So down here at the bottom, we have an ability to add workbooks. So for example, which is part of the add workbooks, but add worksheets. The workbook is basically sort of like what it sounds like. It's a book. It can have multiple sheets. So if you if we go down here and click the plus button, we can see a whole new worksheet rather. Yeah, so you can see up here, still at book 1. If we go back, we still have our sheet. And we can actually delete this sheet if we want. So, or rename it. So let's see. Let's try. Oops. So we're changing the sheet name slightly. And for example, down here you can see it's changed the name. So you can change the name of the sheet down here. Now you can also insert tables and stuff like that. But basically what we're going to do, we don't need this sheet anymore. So we're going to just delete it. And we'll click OK. And we got back to our new sheet. So the final thing you can do, the final very basic thing you can do is go down here, go down to the zoom in section. You can press plus or minus. Basically make the text bigger, or make all the cells bigger basically. So sometimes you can just if you want it to be easier to read, then you can just use this option. If you press Control and then pull out, or if you just press Control and then scroll down, it'll basically also do the same thing. So yeah, so that's basically a very, very basic introduction to Excel online. It's very much like Excel, as you can tell. It's basically, yeah, this is the basic functions of, cells and tabs and worksheets and so forth. So next episode, we'll be going into what exactly you can do with your data. And so this basically involves the ribbons under each tab. And that's more or less what we'll be talking about. And if I'm missing anything, please let me know. And likewise, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.